Welcome back to the Dethroning Your Inner Critic podcast. I'm Joanna Kleinman, CEO of the Mind Method Academy. And if you're building something meaningful right now, a business, a career, a relationship, a dream, a vision that matters deeply to you, this conversation is for you. Because what I want to talk about today is the thing that I believe determines whether or not you create the life you're capable of creating. And it's not talent. It isn't intelligence. It isn't confidence. It isn't motivation. It is your relationship with discomfort. And as I record this episode, I'm leading the second cohort of the Mind Method certification program. And every time I sit in front of these extraordinary human beings who've committed 6 months of their lives to learning this work, I feel overwhelmed with gratitude because this was a dream that I carried for 15 years. 15 years. So before there was the certification program and before there was the ICF accreditation, before there were people graduating all over the world from this coaching program, before any of it existed, when I look back and I ask myself, what got me here? What is the single most important thing that got me here? The answer boils down to one thing, and that is that I didn't quit when I was uncomfortable. And that is it. It's not because I was fearless or because I was confident or because I always believed it would work, because that is not the case. I had more moments than I can count where my inner critic told me it wasn't going to happen. Moments where the results felt invisible. Moments where I questioned myself, moments where I wondered if I was spending years building something that would never become what I envisioned. The difference wasn't that those thoughts disappeared. The difference was that I stopped allowing discomfort to determine what I did. That's exactly why I certify coaches in the Mind Method, because I know that when people learn to build a different relationship with discomfort, it changes how they experience every aspect of their lives, their relationships, their careers, their leadership, their power, their parenting, their health, their business, everything. And the ripple effect that becomes possible when more people know how to rewire their minds and nervous systems around discomfort is really almost impossible to measure. So because I've been a psychotherapist and a coach and a student of human behavior for over 30 years, what I know is that most people get trapped at the level of the situation. So we spend our lives arguing with reality. I can't believe this is happening. Or they shouldn't have done that. Or if they really cared about me, they would do this. My boss should be different. My spouse should be different. My clients should be different. My children should be acting differently. The economy should be different. Life should be different. If you stop for a moment and you ask yourself a deeper question, does looking at my life through this lens actually create the life I want? Is it actually going to lead me to the life that I'm building? And the answer is almost always no. And that's where I invite you to begin with one simple question. And that is, so what? And I don't mean so what in the dismissive sense. I don't mean So what? Who cares? Because I know you care. I know it matters deeply. I know it feels significant and I know it feels important. So when I ask the question, so what? I'm inviting you to look beyond the circumstances themselves and go deeper into what you are making the circumstances mean. So what if they don't approve of you? So what if this relationship ends? So what if the business doesn't work out? So what if they misunderstand you? So what if you make a mistake? So what if you fail? What I'm really asking is, what are you saying this means about you? Because that is where the emotional charge lives. That's where your suffering lives. Not in the event itself, but in the meaning you've attached to the event. So there's a deeper belief that might be square in your blind spot. And that deeper belief is, if this happens, it means something. If this happens, it means I'm not good enough. If this happens, it means I am a failure. If this happens, it means I'm unlovable. If this happens, it means I don't matter. The circumstance is rarely what your nervous system is reacting to. Your nervous system is reacting to the meaning, the interpretation, the very identity threat. So when you're willing to ask, so what, and keep following the deeper thread, the deeper spiral, you'll eventually arrive at the feeling that you have built your whole life trying to avoid all along. That feeling of rejection, or that feeling of disappointment or humiliation or shame or not being enough or not being seen, or that feeling of being alone. And that is the moment where real transformation becomes possible, because now you're no longer fighting with the circumstances. Now you're looking directly at the emotional experience your mind and nervous system have been working so hard to protect you from. And once you can see that clearly, you can begin to build a new relationship with that uncomfortable emotional experience. So the key is to pay attention to your discomfort the moment that it shows up. To ask yourself, so what? So what if this outcome isn't what I wanted? Now notice what happens, because most people immediately go right to defending their position. But I want you to stay with the question, so what? Because if you're willing to go deeper, you'll discover the feeling that you have believed for so long. It's intolerable for me to feel rejection, disappointment, failure, judgment, abandonment, not mattering. These are emotional experiences that your nervous system has been conditioned to protect you from, probably since the age of about 4 to 7 years old. Think about that for a minute. Now, this is where neuroscience becomes really important, because your brain is not designed for happiness, for joy, for fulfillment. Your brain is designed for survival. So since the age of around between 4 and 7, your nervous system has been scanning for potential threats. So your nervous system has been responding to that emotional danger, that possibility. of rejection or failure or embarrassment or humiliation or uncertainty or not being enough. Your brain has processed so much of your social and emotional threats through some of the same neural pathways it uses to scan for physical danger to keep you alive. So when life presents a circumstance that might create one of these emotional experiences, your nervous system contracts into protection. And that's when your racing thoughts begin. The rumination, the hyperfixation, the overanalyzing, or trying to control life, trying to prove yourself, trying to make things perfect, or avoiding the circumstances that you think will make you feel what you don't want to feel, procrastinating, not having the difficult conversations or taking the difficult actions, all of it. And most people think that their power lives in trying to control life so that you don't feel that. And it's actually the opposite. This is actually where your power leaks away, because every time you obey those protective conditioned patterns, you're teaching your nervous system that that feeling is really dangerous. You're reinforcing the belief that you cannot handle it, which means your world gets smaller and your capacity gets weaker and your freedom gets more limited. Now, this is where this work begins. Not by getting rid of discomfort, not by becoming fearless, not by finding this perfect mindset that makes everything easy and fun and full of possibility. No. This work is about becoming willing to feel what you've spent your life trying not to feel. You must decide consciously that you can handle the emotion. That's the work. And I want to be very honest with you about my journey. This is the work that I do with myself every single day. I created the mind method for me, because the same emotional reactivity that exists in your mind and in your nervous system exists in my mind and my nervous system every day. The same conditioning, the same inner critic, the same moments of uncertainty, the same resistance, the same fears. The difference is that I now completely understand what's happening. And because I understand what's happening, I no longer make my feelings mean something about what I'm capable of creating. Now, you may look at people who are further along than you are in whatever area that matters to you, and you might assume that they have something that you don't. And I promise you, they don't. Elite athletes don't feel like training every day. Successful entrepreneurs don't feel inspired every day. Authors don't feel like writing every day. Leaders don't feel courageous every day. The people you admire the most experience the exact same resistance you do, the exact same self-doubt, the exact same discomfort, the exact same mornings where the last thing they want to do is to do the thing that they most need to do. So the difference is not the absence of resistance. The difference is they stopped allowing the resistance to be in charge. That's what the mind method is. It is using the method to build a relationship with your discomfort, because when discomfort shows up, you don't need to make it a problem. Your discomfort is not the problem. Your anger at how you were treated, or why this didn't happen, or why your results don't look the way you want them to, is not a problem. It's something to become curious about. So when you ask, so what you're asking is, What am I actually afraid of feeling? What am I trying so hard to avoid? Because buried underneath everything that you say is a problem is usually a feeling that you've decided is intolerable. And this is one of the biggest misunderstandings that people have about their lives. Most people believe their problems are the circumstances. Our problems, and I'm going to put that in air quotes if you're listening to this, our problems are our relationship with the emotional experience created by the circumstances. You don't have a business problem. You don't have a relationship problem. You don't have a confidence problem. You have a nervous system that learned a long time ago that certain emotional experiences were unsafe. And now that's the nervous system that's trying to protect you. And the irony is that the protection becomes your prison. Because the relief that you're desperately seeking isn't actually relief from that circumstance. It's relief from the feeling. You're afraid you'll fail, or you're afraid you'll be judged, or you'll be rejected, or you'll end up alone. Or maybe you're afraid that you'll discover that you're not enough. Or you'll discover that you really won't matter. Your life has become organized around avoiding those feelings. And you don't know it. And that is all of us as human beings. But the answer is the opposite of avoidance. The answer is your willingness. What if you became willing to fail, willing to be judged, willing to be rejected or misunderstood or disappointed or abandoned? Or what if you're willing to not know how or to feel uncertain? You have got to be willing to feel the thing you don't want to feel. Because what I've discovered along the way of this incredibly powerful journey is the feeling you've spent your entire life running from is actually the doorway to everything you want. The willingness to bear that emotional discomfort. That's what creates your courage. Bearing that emotional discomfort is what creates your resiliency and your leadership and your freedom and your peace. And it is the exact thing that creates your abundance. Because every time you stay present with a feeling you once believed you couldn't handle, you teach your nervous system something new. And that is, I can handle this. I can survive this. I am bigger than this feeling. And when you access that feeling of being more powerful than the feeling that you've been trying to avoid, that is how you rewire your mind. Not through positive thinking, not through affirmations, not through motivation, not through vision boards, not through even visiting your future self. It is through repeated experiences of staying present with discomfort and taking aligned action anyway. That is how new neural pathways in your brain are built. That is how your identity changes. That is how your life transformed. And there is one thing that I know for certain after building a life and building a business that has surpassed anything that I could have imagined. What I know now is this: the only thing that separates you where you are from where you want to be is your willingness to keep going when your discomfort shows up. So a long, long time ago, I had an experience that changed my life. I was leading a program. This is going back to about 2017. I was leading a workshop, and my father was sitting in the back of the workshop. And after the workshop was over, the workshop was all about dethroning your inner critic. And my father looked at me and he said, if I had known how to not listen to that voice in my mind, I would have kept going and I would have led a very different life. And in that moment, I made one decision. And that decision was, no matter what happens, I will keep going anyway, over and over again. And trust me, that has not felt good. That has not felt easy. That has not felt comfortable. I don't keep going because it feels good. I don't keep going because I am certain that it's all going to work out. I keep going because my vision became more important than my discomfort. So if you are building something new right now, whatever it is, I want you to remember you are in the arena. You are on the court. You are in an arena that most people never even enter because most people spend their lives negotiating with their discomfort. You are doing something vastly different, and that is you are choosing to face it. And that means that every difficult moment you're experiencing is not evidence that there's something wrong. It's evidence that you are growing and you are expanding and you are becoming someone new. So I'm going to tell you that the question is not whether discomfort will show up, because I promise you it will. The question is, will you continue to obey that discomfort, or will you finally become willing to feel what you've spent your whole life trying not to feel? Because in that willingness, you will find the power you've been searching for all along, and that changes everything. So if today's conversation resonated with you and you are realizing that the next level of your life isn't about fixing your circumstances, but about building a different relationship with discomfort, there are 3 ways to work with me. The first is private coaching. Now, this is for individuals who are ready for deep, personalized transformation. Because the work that I do with the clients that I work with one-on-one is we identify all of your unconscious programming and patterns that are driving your thoughts, your emotions, your behaviors, and your choices. And you're going to learn how to retrain your mind and nervous system so you can create the life, the leadership, the relationships, the impact that you truly want. The second way to work with me is the Mastering Your Mind community. Now, this is our ongoing growth community for people who want support, coaching, education, and accountability. This is the program where you learn how to utilize the mind method for yourself and for your life, because your transformation is a practice. And when you learn to apply the mind method principles to the real challenges and opportunities you see in your life along the way of your journey, and you do it alongside of a community of people that are committed to doing that same work, that is a life-changing experience. Third opportunity to work with me is in the Mind Method Certification Program. Now, this is for people who want to take this work to a whole different level. So whether you are an aspiring coach, an aspiring therapist, a leader, a helping professional, someone who feels called to guide other people through transformation, the certification program allows you to first embody the mind method into your own life and then learn how to facilitate this work with other people. It is one of the most meaningful things I've ever created, and watching people transform themselves into people who help transform others is extraordinary. So if you are called into one of these three areas and you'd like to learn more about any one of these opportunities, you can head over to the links in the show notes or visit my website, masteringyourmind.com. So until the next episode, I want you to remember that the life you want is not on the other side of certainty. It is on the other side of your willingness to feel what you've been avoiding and to take aligned action anyway. That's where your freedom lives. And hopefully, I'll see you on the next episode. Thanks for tuning in today.